Hello everybody, it's me, GhostCritic, with the final question of the week for 2014. Yes, I break up at the end of this week for Christmas and I shall be away, so there will not be a question of the week video next week. So this is it. This is the end of Question of the Week for 2014. I'm bringing it back in 2015, but under a slightly different guise. You will find out more about that at the beginning of next year. Ooh, suspense. So, as many of you know who have subscribed to me and watched my videos, I am doing currently a comic book Christmas calendar where I am highlighting my favourite issues of 2014 as a rundown to Christmas. And I'm basically going to throw that question right back at you. I am not expecting 25 highlights, but just let me know in the comment section down below what comic books this year have really appealed to you, that has really interested you, you've had the most fun with. Just let me know down there in the comment section below. Now, as loyal viewers of Question of the Week videos know, I get asked questions from yourselves for me to answer in the following week's video. And again, these are the final answers to your questions of 2014. Please don't ask me any more questions. They won't get answered, basically. So let us crack on with this week's set of questions, and we begin with Stacey Gallagher. And they ask, do you think comics will be popular in 10 years? And do you still see yourself collecting them? Wow, that's a big question. I think there will still be comics in 10 years time, but not really as we see them now. I think as unpopular, I guess, as they are now, digital will finally take over. It can't not really, in our age of like technology, to have these kind of funny pages, funny books made of paper, when you have everything at the touch on your iPad, your iPhone, your laptop, your computer screen. I think it would be somewhat remiss in 10 years time that comic books and their comic book readership hasn't caught up with the times. It would be sad to see it go, and I think that would be the point where I would potentially stop buying the new stuff. I'm not a fan of it. I'm an old fuddy-duddy. I do like my paper copies rather than digital, so I more than likely would stop collecting if that happened in 10 years time, and predominantly concentrate on those back issues that are still floating around everywhere. Derry Lucarelli asked me, if Dan Didio came to you and said, we are canning the current Batwoman team, I need a recommendation for a new creative team, who would you pick? Nice of Dan Didio to pop round for a cup of tea and ask my opinion, but I would say I'd like to see on writing duty someone either like Brubaker or Remender. They are doing great work this year. A lot of interesting character written individuals that those guys are writing. For art style, I'd really like to change it up a little bit. I don't per se want to go back to the J.H. Williams era, as gorgeous and as lovely as that was. So I kind of went for either someone like Francesco Francavilla or even Sean Murphy. Give Batwoman a little bit more of a dark indie feel. Of course, it would be lovely to have Jordi Belair doing the colouring as well. Mercy's little show. Oh, this was such a tough question. Oh, Mercy, please. What, in your opinion, was the best decade for comics? Ouch. Oh, this is one of those questions you can't possibly answer. I do believe there is something of worth in every decade. I mean, obviously the 60s, you have the kind of Marvel, the golden days, I guess, of Marvel, the introduction of all those great superhero teams, those great creators, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, all those greats of our comic book universe. The 70s I thought were great because it showed a great diversity in comic genres. You could get anything from your usual superhero antics, then you could go straight to horror, you could go to kind of martial arts, there were westerns, there was kind of sci-fi but with that kind of cosmic saga-ness to it. The 90s, oh, they were a good year, the good decade, weren't they? That was just kind of over the top, ridiculous comic book era, and it was still fun despite it kind of almost the kind of comic book industry bombing at that time, and going broke through over production of issue number ones, multiple covers, those foil cover incentives, all that kind of stuff. The noughties, if we're calling it that, just another age where comics, I guess, in much respects, grew up and dealt with both real world issues, put our characters in roles that we could identify. Everything got very dark and, like I said, grown up. So it's just, it would be impossible for me to just say, yes, this is the best era. So hope that kind of answers it. Mr. Chupacadre asked me, did you read any comics that you would consider a guilty pleasure, or a comic that was loathed by public but you absolutely enjoyed? I never consider a book I read a guilty pleasure, so I can't really answer that side, and neither should anyone. If you're enjoying that book, it doesn't matter if 100 people are reading it or 100,000 people are reading it. If you're getting something out of it, then that's pleasure enough. As for liking a book that most of the people loathe, I don't honestly know. I kind of avoid people who talk about books in a highly negative light. I know, you know, from issue to issue we can absolutely love an issue and then absolutely hate an issue. But for someone to then go on and on and on and say how much they hate the book, I would be like, well, why are you reading it then? So I'm going to kind of take a different tact and kind of like, I'm enjoying books that not a lot of people I see are reading, such as Umbral from Image. I think I only know of Sleepy Reader, Damien, who's reading that along with me. What else am I reading that I don't see many people talking about? I don't really hear much people talking about Justice League Dark. I am actually kind of hovering with that issue at the moment, but we'll see how that goes. There's not a lot of books that I think that I really like that no one else is either reading or absolutely hates. Moving on, Joshua Hayes asked me, you have to pair a terrible trio from various comics. One must be from DC, one from Marvel, and one from an indie comic. Who do you team up and why? Oh goodness. Marvel, always Doctor Doom. He is a fantastic evil villain. And his connections with Fantastic Four, for me, as their kind of arch nemesis kind of villain, always appeals to me when he's in a storyline. DC, Anton Arcane. I kind of want to go with a magical feel here, I think. A great dark character being used, obviously, in Swamp Thing at the moment. And as for an indie comic book, it's strange because you don't really see villains per se within well, not in the indie comic books I'm reading at the moment. I'm actually kind of struggling to think of somebody because you don't get those kind of huge villains like Marvel and DC have. Like Image, all the creators there have a way of making you both hate and love and sympathise for the less than good characters. So that's a bit of a struggle. I can't even quickly looking. I'm sorry, I can't think of anybody. I'm stumped. I should have researched this better. Really sorry, Josh. So no, it's a trio of 2. Finally, Sleepy Reader 666 asked an absolutely awesome question, and he asked me, if you had to live 2014 over again, oh my god, please don't make me do that, what changes would you make to your pull list? What a fantastic question. With foresight, what book and titles wouldn't I have bothered picking up? I wouldn't have picked up Batwoman. I would have dropped that so much sooner once Mark and Draco had come on it. I would have probably given him 1 issue rather than the 6 or 7 that I stubbornly thought he'd get better at but didn't. I probably wouldn't have bought Sex by Casey. It had an interesting idea, but the kind of narrative flow of that wasn't what I expected, and just disappointed me a great deal. What else did I write? I'm not a huge fan, although I do buy into them occasionally, of mini-series. I prefer my comic books to go on for some time, but I think I wouldn't have bothered picking up Steve Niles' Monster and Madmen, or the Dynamite Mark Waid run of Dr. Spectre. I always find with comics like that is, just as they're coming to the end, I'm like, this hasn't been enough of an insight into this universe, into these characters, into these stories, and I want more. So I probably wish I hadn't picked them up. On the flip side, picking up books, for those of you who've been watching me throughout the year, Marvel hasn't been a huge influence on my reading this year. Certainly not in the single issues, but I was lucky enough to pick up the first 20 or so issues of All New X-Men, which I have thoroughly enjoyed, and considering putting that back on my pull list for 2015, and that also goes, I mean, probably not picking it up for 2015, but I wish I'd been on board for Warren Ellis's run on Moon Knight, the first 6 issues. I managed to grab them at the first 6 issues at a really cheap price, and they are a really good read and an interesting take on that character. So yeah, there's not much I would really change. I would have liked Image to have changed a little bit this year and not put out so many issue 1s, stealing all my money out of my wallet every week, but can't complain, they've put out some fantastic books this year. And that was the last question from you guys in 2014. Thank you for all your support on these videos. As I said at the top of this video, I'm changing things up a little bit for this kind of video upload on a Monday. It will be similar, but not the same. Until we meet again next year for a revised take on the question of the week video. Bye bye.